Hello and welcome to another edition of Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks. I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in downtown Brevard, North Carolina. And I'm coming to you from my house today to get us started on all of the different knit along sock patterns that we've picked. The second sock pattern that we've picked as a toe up pattern is Mina's Vanilla Sock Recipe. Now I've finished one whole sock. The pattern is written for cuff down or toe up, and I've picked it as my toe up option. So this is where we're going to start today. The yarn, I have self-patterning yarn. It's really fun from Cascade, and it's probably not going to match. I'm not going to worry about making it match. I would have to start it down here somewhere to make it match this part. So I'm a little past where this one started. So the stripes are going to come out in different places. But for toe up socks, well, let me back up for a second. I'm going to make instructions for different parts of this pattern, but not the whole thing. This is a pay pattern and it's worth the money that Mina will get because she has put a lot of work into this pattern. So Mina's Vanilla Sock Recipe by Knitting Expat Designs. I'll put a link in the description here so you can get the pattern yourself. There's different instructions for different sizes. And one thing that she's requested is the short row heel. She has a video that comes along with purchasing the pattern. So I won't be making a video on that. When you get the pattern, you can use her video for that. I do have videos on double stitch or short rows. I might be making videos that have to do with that, but are not going to be talking about doing the entire heel. Could probably even use my ranunculus videos on short rows to help you out with that. So today's video is going to be on how to start the toe to make it look this good and do this kind of thing. It's a pretty traditional beginning to a sock. So this could work for other socks as well. In case you Google searched Judy's Magic Cast On and came across this, this will work for other patterns as well. I'm going to show everybody how to cast on 10 sets of these stitches. So let's get to it. I've only recently learned how to do this type of cast on, so I might be remembering a few things as it goes. This can give you a fairly invisible edge to your toe, which is really kind of cool. This color changing yarn has both green and gray. I am going to start my cast on where it changes so you can kind of see differences and what ends up where. So to do Judy's Magic Cast On, we're going to hold our needles together. And we'll talk about it as needle 1 and needle 2, like the one that's on top and the one that's on bottom is the way I've seen it. You can make a slip knot, or I like living dangerously and just draping my yarn over my needle. Now, what I've learned is it's pretty important. We're going to do this like, now that we have 2 strands hanging down, a little bit like a long tail where we put our fingers in and spread them. But what I've learned is it's really important that your tail is hanging down between these. Your tail is in between these, and the yarn going to the ball is off the back. If it's a slip knot, it doesn't really matter. But once you split your stitches to be on your finger and your thumb for a long tail type cast on, you want the tail, which is my green, to be going towards the back on your finger, and what's on your going to be on your thumb needs to be coming to the front here, needs to be what's going to the ball. So I'm going to make sure that happens when I grab it and split my fingers in there. I'm going to have the tail back here, and I'm going to have the thumb up here. Now, if you notice, the top needle has yarn on it and the bottom needle doesn't. And I need to get my next loop. I'm kind of doing this to remember which way to go. that means that you want, whoop, if that doesn't fall off, you want the bottom needle it has to alternate. And there's two directions you can go. We're going to be going around the outside of either of these yarns, that way or this way, and catching the yarn around the needle that is closest to it. So like if I go up, my bottom needle is near this yarn. And if I go down, see my fingers hanging onto this, my top needle is near this yarn. Now take a look. If I went down right now and you want to catch the needle, whoop, and not totally mess it up there. If I went down right now, this is how you can keep track of where you want to go. If I go down and the needle that's closest to this strand gets stuck on it, that's what I want to do. Is either this, or I go up and the needle that is closest, which is the bottom needle, gets caught. If I went down and did that, I'd have two strands on my top needle. I don't want that. I have to alternate. So I have the yarn that is on the top. If I go up and catch it on my bottom needle like that, now I've got a pair. And then I go down and catch it on my closest needle. And I go up and catch it on my closest needle. And I go down and catch it on my closest needle. And up and catch it on my closest needle. We want sets. So like I have 3 stitches on each needle. I'm going to start from the beginning because that might have been a little confusing, right? So let's try that again to make it a little more cohesive now that you've seen it a little bit. 2 needles, top and bottom. The yarn I'm going to stick on here. Let's see, with the tail in the center. And then the tail is going to come towards the top and the yarn going to the ball comes towards the bottom when I split like this. And I'm going to keep going to the outside, top or bottom, go around the outside. And I'm going to catch it on the needle that is closest to either. So if I go up, I'm going to catch it on the lower needle, and that's going to give us 1 loop on both needles. Then I'm going to come up and over and down and catch it on the bottom needle, come back to center, up, over, and catch it just on the needle that's closest to it. Keep looking for different ways to help us understand this. Up, over, and under, and only catch it on the needle that's closest. Up, over, and catch it on the bottom needle. Up, down, and catch it on the top needle. Up, over, catch it on the bottom needle. Up, down, and under. And see, it wants to get stuck there. If you need to, put a finger here, catch it on the top one. Up to the top, catch it on the bottom. Down to the bottom, but we're still going over. This is all coming over towards you. Catch it on the top. Up and under, and catch it on the bottom needle. Up and down and under, and catch it on the top needle. Now let's see. I have 1, 2. I'm counting sets. So 1 top and bottom, 2 top and bottom, 3 top and bottom, 4 top and bottom, 5 top and bottom, 6 top and bottom. 7 has the top but not the bottom. So I actually need to go up to circle the bottom one. 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10. I'm going to take that off and do it one more time. Take all this off. Just pop this off to get a whole nother set of this in. So again, let's see if we can make this any more understandable. I'm going to stick my yarn over this or put a slip knot with my tail hanging down, but I'm going to pull the tail up under my finger and the yarn going to the ball is going to be on my thumb. Now, if we think about these as top and bottom needles and top and bottom strands, we need to go opposite. So if I need the bottom one wrapped, which is what I need right now, I need to go up to the top yarn and catch it on my bottom needle. And now I need to come towards myself under the bottom yarn to wrap the top. Up and around from behind to wrap the bottom towards myself and under the bottom one to wrap my top one. Up and around and catch it to wrap my bottom one. I'm going to keep going. I have 3 on here. So I'm going to go down, wrap, down and wrap the top. Use your fingers if you need to stabilize this. Go up and wrap the bottom. Down and wrap the top. Up and wrap the bottom. Down and wrap the top. Up and wrap the bottom. Down to wrap the top. Up to wrap the bottom. Each time you're only wrapping around 1 needle. So sets top and bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The last one I wrapped was the bottom. I need to wrap the top needle, which means I need to come down and wrap the top, up and wrap the bottom, down and wrap the top, up and wrap the bottom, down and wrap the top, up and wrap the bottom. That's 10 of them. Now what I need to do, they've been in my right hand this whole time. Now I need to turn this around and think about it this way. The yarn, the needle with the tail wrapped around it, which is the bottom one here, it's my green one. When I turn this around, the one with the tail wrapped around it is the one I'm going to be knitting first. So I'm going to pull out, as I turn that around, I have a top needle and a bottom one. I'm going to pull out the bottom one towards the right and bring it up to knit. Now this is going to want to untangle. So if we make sure the tail is off the back and then grab the yarn that goes to the ball, we're knitting with the one that goes to the ball. And to be able to do this, we need to have the tail. If I just pull the tail under like this and try to start knitting it, that's gonna be super complicated. I think it works best if we make sure the tail goes under. And this comes around the back in order to knit it. And it's going to feel super loose at first. Pull your tail if you need to. And let's knit this side. This is magic loop. We're doing a setup for it. We're going to knit both sides of this. When I knit this side, I'm going to hang on to this. I'm going to turn it around. And if I'm holding onto the needle that I just finished knitting and I pull on the strand over here, it's going to pull the other needle up into the stitches and not the first one out. We're going to stick it in. Let's get the yarn off the back side here. So I stuck in the needle to the side we still need to knit. I'm going to pull out the needle, pulling to the right. And this side, they say it is better to knit through the back loop only for this row. So I'm going to get started here to knit the back side of these stitches. Knit it through the back loop. Oh, it's trying to be all kinds of tangled. The thing with magic loop, you have 2 loops on either side here. The stitches on this side will be twisted, so knitting through the back loop gets it set up correctly. we have this little bit right in here. My rule of thumb with magic loop, no matter how many or how few stitches you have on it, is right now what we get to do is what you finish knitting is in your right hand. So grab all those stitches with your right hand, pivot, we're twisting like this. We're not going up and down and sideways. We're just twisting so that your palm faces you. Try not to get confused by all this other stuff going on. When you pivot, the loop will end up right where your left hand can grab it. Keep hanging onto those stitches and pull on the loop. That will pull your other needle up into the other side of the stitches. Again, try to ignore the tail. At this point, you can grab that needle with your left hand because it is what will be in your left hand. Shove your needle into those stitches if it didn't get pulled all the way. The other needle now can get pulled out to the right enough so that you can circle back and start knitting on your next row. Now, for the instructions for this type of sock, we want to knit one and knit the first one and pull your cord up. Pull that stitch snug so the cord comes right up to not have ladders. We need to start increasing pretty much right away. We're going to make one left, which is you slide your left needle under that ladder that's between stitches, front to back, pick it up and knit it through the back loop. I have individual videos on all of these type of things if doing it this way is too quick. So we're going to knit across to one stitch before the end of this side. We really have everything split in half. And over here, we're going to make one right. So that ladder between stitches right there, we're going to duck our needle from the rear. That's how I remember right. Right means rear. Pick it up from behind and knit it into the front of it. It's knitting it the hardest way possible. If we knit that through the back loop, there'd be a hole. We're trying to twist it. Knit it through the front and knit your last one. So in addition to increases, let's go over how to turn. Again, you finish knitting this, all the stitches are on the needle in your right hand. Pinch it so it won't fall off. Pivot, just twist your hand so the palm of your hand, your right hand is facing you. That puts a loop by your left hand. Pull on that loop until the other needle comes up into the stitches that you haven't knit yet on this round. Grab that with your left hand, wiggle this in if you have to. Right hand gets to help there, but your left hand is hanging onto the new needle. The old needle that has the yarn attached to it, you now get to pull out to the right and loop around to that first stitch. Grab your yarn and knit that, pull that cord all the way up. I can let that get big so I can start to make my increase here, which make one left. Right means rear, so left is just the opposite. I don't have a good way to remember that left is coming in from the front other than it's not the rear and the right. So if I pick it up from the front, if I knit it from the front, that would give me a big, huge hole. So I'm going to knit it through the rear of the stitch to twist it. And I'm going to knit across. And I'm going to stop one stitch from the end. Make one right, which is picking up from behind, from the rear, and knitting into the front. You really got to wiggle it around if you need to. And knitting that last stitch. We're starting to make our toe. Now again, for knitting in the round with magic loop, hang on to the needle we just finished in your right hand because that's where it ends up. This one's free. pivot so your palm is facing you, your right palm. Grab the loop that now you have easy access to with your left hand. Pull, hanging onto the back one so it doesn't come out of the stitches. What you've pulled up, and get your yarn kind of free off the back. What you've pulled up is now what's going to be in your left hand. So your left hand's holding it. Your right hand can squish it in. This green guy is my tail. I'm going to try to ignore him. Left hand is holding the front one. Right hand can pull the back one that we just finished out and up to the front so we can start knitting. Most increases for toes, pull that up nice and tight. Most increases for toes will have an increase round and just a straight knit across round. So I knit all the way across these stitches. I get to the end, this one gets free. This one, keep my right hand on, pinching it so the stitches don't come off. Turn or pivot, palm facing you, grab the loop, pull. What you pulled up is now what needs to go in your left hand, so wiggle it down with your right if you need to, but that's your left one. Hold on to that so you don't lose stitches. The back one you get to pull out with your right hand. Come up and knit. First stitch, take it nice and snug. Now the most important thing with magic loop is we're doing half of our stitches each time we do that turnaround to go around one whole time. So I've done my knitting straight row, hang on, pinch it, let the other one dangle free, turn, palm facing, grab the loop and pull, still pinching so that one doesn't come out. The only one that moves is the big loose one. That loose one is now up into the stitches at least a little. That is your left needle. Squish it down. The back needle that has the yarn attached to it is what we now pull out with our right hand and come around to join and do another increase row. Now to keep track of which one you're doing, and remember it was a make one left, duck under from the front, knit it through the back, knit across, stop one stitch from the end, make one right by ducking under the loop and knitting into the front. Whoop. Sometimes it helps to roll the yarn to get some slack and knit the last one. Before I turn around, my tail is over here letting me know. As I get further away from my tail, I may want to mark that side for the beginning of a round because I still need to increase on the other side. So I'm going to grab and pivot, grab the loop and pull, grab the new side with my right hand and push in and pull the back one out, bring it around to knit. Knit my first one. Might get loose as I pull up to do my make one left, but then I can snug it up. Knit across till there's one left on this side. Oop, I almost went all the way over. One left on this side. Let's do a make one right. All right, again, last little little itty bitty bit of a toe here. But last one, the one you just finished, hang on to with your right hand, pivot, grab the loop and pull. Make sure the yarn's not getting tangled. The needle that got pulled up is now your left needle that you can push in, hang on to it, pull the back one out, come around, and get ready to knit. Now I'm doing this on a 32-inch needle. Probably should have said that when I started. And it gives me enough flexibility to do this sock. 32 inch is my favorite for one sock at a time. 40 inch potentially for two socks at a time. But everyone's got their own comfort on that. When there's enough here, either we could mark with a stitch marker the first stitch on the side that's the beginning of the round, because I'm about to start a set round where I'm not doing any increases. Or if you have one of those little lobster claw stitch markers, you could put it in underneath where you are on this side, so that when it's dangling towards the tip of your needle, you know that you're about to come in and start your new instructions for a new row. This is a set row, so I'm just going to knit around. Knit this half. Grab it with my right hand, pivot, pull the loop. The needle side that got pulled up is now what goes in my left hand. I push it down. I pull the one I'm not holding in my left hand out and come around. Pull it out enough that I can come around and not lose this loop and start knitting this side. Until you get a few increases in, this looks like a bit of a hot mess, but it will come together and look more like a toe once you get more of this done. But for today, that's all we're going to do. Let me finish this side. I'm going to do the same thing to start my next row, but instead of starting it, if I'm going to take a break, I pull these needles so they're not in the stitches and it's hanging out there. There's my little itty bitty toe. From my fingers down, this is, I started right there and I increased out. That's the whole toe right there on my other sock that I've just started right here. So thanks for joining us for how to start both Judy's Magic Cast On and the increases for what will eventually be the mate to this toe up sock. We're doing an in-person class on this sock on June 11th. That's coming up this Saturday. It's only a few days away if you're in the Brevard area. If you're watching this after June 11th, you can always set up a one-on-one appointment with me to work on stuff like this or keep working off the videos. We have one more video for today that I'm at least going to film on how to start Hermione's everyday sock, which is a cuff down. We'll go over that. That's for 2 circular needles. That's always fun. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing if you haven't already, or giving it a thumbs up or commenting on it. They're all free ways to help our channel grow. If you'd like to support the work that we do with a little bit of money, you can become a member here. There's a few different levels. That's joining rather than subscribing. You can give us a super thanks, which is kind of like giving us a tip. You can go over to Patreon and sign up at one of the monthly rates there. And after 3 months, you get swag over there. All of our members and patrons get mentioned in the credits, but we appreciate all the work that everybody does to support us, which really just watching us is like helps us out. So may your crafting be filled with joy and confidence. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. What do you see? Yeah? Oh.